Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of your fitness and mental health podcast with me, Coach Rupert Wilson. This week I have the wonderful Chris Barker joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And it's been a bit over a year I've been hunting you down.
Well, I think we spoke about it a year ago, but I guess until you had the sort of setup ready, it was kind of like, why rush?
Exactly. Yeah. You are just so friendly. Like I bumped into you and you were just like, hey, and we were at turf games. Because I think you were perhaps injured back then or something. Or you just...
Yeah, I still did the engine last year.
Oh, you did?
I think like my days of wanting to do the worm of kind of, I'm getting older. I don't think my back really wants it anymore. So try and keep fit. But I don't feel like I look that approachable. So if someone does come and bother to say hi, I'm not going to be like an arsehole straight off the bat.
I didn't notice what the tattoos on the side.
I mean, so, people judge a book sometimes.
Yeah. And then, well, I mean, look, if that's not a segue and a half, but like straight into it on your Instagram and your coaching, generally we've both found, whether it's my aspects of my fluffiness and whatnot, or it's just generally women are leaning into fitness at the moment more, or they're leaning into getting good advice from good people, But you generally coach females.
Yeah, so I predominantly female specific. I did a pre and postnatal course years ago because I worked in a gym in Chelsea where it's kind of like lots of yummy mummies, right? So it was like I saw the pound signs. I might as well do this qualification, not because I had any real interest in it, I'll be honest with you. It was kind of like this will differentiate me from other personal trainers in the area, and quite a good skill set to have so I can tap into that market. And I just remember being like, fuck, why did I not know this? Like, as you said, like it was very rudimentary, but it was quite interesting. And then when I started to, progress in my sort of education, I got the chance to do a qualification in fertility nutrition, which was amazingly interesting. And then that just sort of kept the ball rolling. So then I, did menopause. I did things like PCOS, like research into it and courses online. So it just sort of, I find it so much more interesting. I actually quite enjoy working with women. Bit of a generalization, but quite often I found that their goals are a little bit more away from predominantly just the aesthetics, which is kind of like, it's more rewarding. So helping a woman go through the prenatal and postnatal period is so much more rewarding than a guy who just wants to get bigger biceps. So like it kind of, I think there was an interplay of, I found it really interesting, and what you're interested in, you sort of tend to want to learn more and then actually get better at yourself. And it was just like interesting, but also more rewarding from the people I was working with to like the health I was improving. So it was that interplay that sort of led to, I think 95% of my clients are women. I'll get the occasional guy who's like, you trained my missus, she looks great. Can you clearly train yourself? Like I was like, all right, yeah. But I don't really sort of market myself for blokes.
Right, and then also, if people don't follow you and have seen your stuff, you're also pretty good at reading books. Coming from a guy who doesn't read very well, but you also got like you're a PhD or a master's in nutrition.
So clinical nutritionist. I completed that I think 2 years ago, and then I've subsequently published a book on fat loss myself, and the next one on menopause is in the editing stage. So I've written it. It's harder to get a book with my vocabulary, which is non-PC at the best of times, published about menopause. So it's going through this sort of editing process right now. But, right. Fingers crossed that
be snapped up.
The main, I can go self-publishing route if I want, which is what I did with the first book, because I got offers, but they wanted to change some of the language, and I was like, I'd rather be myself. So this next one will be called Mansplaining the Menopause. So obviously a slightly inflammatory title. So, worst case scenario, I'll self-publish it later this year. But I've had some good feedback already, so we'll just see.
Yeah, I mean the tides are changing at the moment. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think everybody's over if they can't find a sense of humor in life. I think sense of humor is slowly creeping back.
Yes, I would say slowly. the woke are still outnumbering, I feel like, the people who tend to have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is you get good results. You've got clients that are enjoying working with you.
Yeah. There's no reason for anyone to actually not like. I understand, like, you know, the title itself, Mansplaining the Menopause, assumes that I'm going to just write and be like, women, this is how you should feel. But like, it's not that. That's the kind of juxtaposition I'm sort of writing from. But
it makes perfect sense to me, by the way.
Yeah.
Like I think you just got to. Somebody said to me something about baffled minds are, if it's overcomplicated, I've totally messed it up. But it's something like, it's basically just saying that, like, if somebody should understand something, it shouldn't be that baffling to just get something that's that basic.
Yeah, and I think actually, like, I try and write from the perspective in this book where it's kind of like, because I can't have lived experience, I am purely writing what the literature says, like what the most current research says.
You're like the most tattooed ChatGPT ever.
So it's like there's no bias involved, because I don't actually, like, I feel like most of the books, because I've read predominantly all the books out there on menopause, and they're usually like older women writing them, and that's not a criticism of the books, but they don't really become that readable to like a younger generation, which actually are probably the people who should be reading about it, so that they can take a proactive approach to their health, and a proactive approach to that period in their life. But it's also like, because they've lived through these things, they'll have internal biases that sort of come out in the book where they favor this, or they had a bad experience with that, where it's kind of like, because I can't, I've just literally looked at the literature and gone, this is what the research would say. So I don't know what a hot flush is like, but this is what again. So
right. But then on that so let's ask some like very basic questions that my listeners and my clients would be like listening to. It's like, a lot of people are reading the Daily Mail or other papers or whatever, and they're coming to personal trainers now, almost like Atkins and keto diets a couple of years ago, and Vibra plates. I did a joke with a client about that. Do you remember them in the gyms?
I do. I think we've still got one in our gym, but
Yeah, we had like literally protests when we took them out at the gym. I remember people being like, "Oh, we will never join a gym again if they're missing," and now they're gone. And I still have some Vipers here in my gym. I don't know if you remember Vipers, doing the Viper training. So I get a lot of clients come to me and they say, "Oh, I'm getting to that age. I need to build muscle mass because I'm going to lose muscle mass because of the menopause." Yeah. So just simply break down that for me, because which part of that is true and in which order? Like, is it too late at that point if you're already...
No. There's quite a lot to unpick there.
Sorry.
As I said, you want to take a proactive approach. So realistically, the best idea would be training, already weight training in your 20s, 30s. Depending on when you're reaching menopause, because obviously there's like early and premature menopause, you still essentially resistance training should always be the foundation, because it's going to improve that, or at least slow down the muscle loss. So obviously your risk of things like sarcopenia and osteoporosis increase, as you age. Now, when you go through the menopause, predominantly because of the loss of estrogen, the stimulus from resistance training is blunted. So it's harder to build muscle. It's not impossible though. So for someone who's maybe left it too late, as it were, you haven't, in the sense of you can still be proactive and start again somewhere. So, if people are coming to you now in their sort of 40s and 50s and wanting to, it's fantastic. It's just a case of, I guess, managing expectations. You're not suddenly going to build loads of muscle at that point in your life. You can build muscle, though, following a correct program, the right nutritional principles and the, right recovery principles. But it will do one, like, in terms of longevity and sort of, the fountain of youth, your muscle mass is predominantly the only thing that is like supported by the literature in terms of, that will help you live long and healthy. So, if someone's coming to you in their 50s and they're like, fuck, is it too late? It's definitely not. Like, get on with it. Yeah. But anyone watching this if you're in your 30s and 40s, make sure you're doing it now.
Yeah.
And I say resistance training, like I'm a big fan of Pilates and yoga and stuff like that, but they're complementary practices predominantly. You want the sort of heavy weights, you want the explosive movements, because it's your power output goes first and then the strength. So it's kind of like you want the combination of like things like plyometrics, which are great for, maintaining muscle mass, but also bone density. Okay. You want the heavy strength training. You want the sort of, more like explosive movements to keep those sort of like to tap into those fast twitch muscle fibers that again are the first to go. So, it's one of those where there's a lot we can be, to do to be proactive with. Now, for someone who's just starting out, plyometrics might be a little bit difficult. We can regress it quite a lot, but at the same point, we want them to be strength training. There's nothing like that sort of replaces that.
Yeah. I mean, that is just cracking. Like, I think that is brilliant. And would it also be like then maybe an analogy for the training a bit later will it be like you're cycling in a higher gear? You're still cycling, but it might just be that it's going to take a bit longer to like get that traction if you're on.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, there's so much nuance to it. It's like, where's your starting point? For someone who's been training a lot, again, it's kind of like, can they maintain that muscle mass?
Right.
And again, maintain that sort of, the freedom that muscle mass gives you, right? Okay. Because, it's the loss of the muscle mass that leads to you being more sort of, probably more sedentary, but also like less independent, right? If you can't get out of a chair, then suddenly life becomes so much more difficult, right? So it's quite often like, I like the way Dr. Peter Attia always, if you've read his book Outlive, which is a fantastic book, he talks about the marginal decade, essentially the last 10 years of your life. So you're training for that last 10 years of what you wanted to look like. So it's kind of like playing with your grandkids or being able to go on a hike, or, if you're someone who likes golf or paddle, still being able to do that. So it's kind of like quite a lot of the work you're putting in your 40s and your 50s, assuming you live to like, the 80s, you want to be making sure you're sort of investing in the ability to still be sort of physically capable of doing things in your last like decade, as it were. Yeah,
100%. Like there's a classic one, which is like my mum was in a car park and there was a very small wall, and she realized to me that she wasn't able to step up the wall, and she nearly tripped over it. And that's what gave her kind of a fright, because my mum's 70, and she was like, if I'd fallen and broken my hip, it would have almost been like that. People always say, you break your hip, you have a hip replacement. It's not. It's all of the stuff that goes with that.
The mortality rates of falls is terrifying. Yeah. So like, it's kind of like one of those ones where I think like it's like something like 70% of people within a year after like a fall at that age are dead. Like, fuck. Yeah. So it's again, like the strength training, the sort of plyometrics, all these like the right correct nutrition as well. It's kind of like you're trying to prevent that bone loss, because you're trying to reduce your risk of like a fall and break. So, and then that also comes into like training in terms of, you have better stability and proprioception when you've sort of got better muscle mass and stuff like that. So you're limiting the risk of fall anyway.
But does menopause sap the bones? Like do you get brittle bones?
So osteoporosis, I think, translates to brittle bones. Right.
And sorry, for me that I don't understand, I'm like, osteoporosis is from the reduction of estrogen. Osteoporosis is the reduction in sort of bone density. Okay. Estrogen is basically the best thing for your bones. So when women go through the menopause and their estrogen eventually flatlines, essentially you have more osteoclasts, break down muscle, osteoblasts, which I always think is named wrong, build muscle. You have a sort of speeding up of the breakdown without the repair. So you end up losing bone mineral density. Now, they have shown in research that, strength training will, prevent
the speed of loss and can actually like stall it completely. So it's one of those ones where if you don't do anything about it, your rate of decline will be pretty quick, purely because of that loss of estrogen. And there's more complexity to that bone loss than just the osteoblasts and class sort of relationship. There's also like the sort of you end up with a loss of calcium, and usually that age group are also deficient in vitamin D. So like in terms of nutrition, it's like calcium, vitamin D, magnesium all have like an interplay in your sort of like your bone density, as it were. And you'll find quite often that if someone's becoming more sedentary, they're inside more, they're not getting that vitamin D, the diet's usually poor. So it's kind of like one thing stacks on top of the other to make it even more likely that they're going to suffer, a fracture.
And that's perfectly leading us into nutrition. So my wife, at one point, perimenopause, even though I think she's still way too early for it all, she just kind of got hooked by a magazine and then was like, oh, I've paid for this nutrition course or a nutritionist to give me a pre-perimenopause nutrition diet. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it sounded as good as it sounded when she said it to me. Yeah. And my ears just went up as a personal trainer and went, so you basically just paid for some crap that you've just bought, right? It was before ChatGPT, right? So it was, so it's even more crap, probably. But can you stave off the menopause by eating overnight oats and chia seeds? Yeah.
You can't do anything really to stave off the menopause. Now, you can do things, or you can not do things, as it were, to reduce the chance of early menopause. So things like smoking, things like drinking too much alcohol, being overweight, these things can increase your risk of an earlier menopause.
Right.
So obviously not doing those, it's not staving off menopause, it's just not speeding it up, as it were. There's a point where sort of like, if you were to, ask your mum when she went through it, there's a bit of a correlation between like sort of when she went through it and when you might go through it. But again, there's such a range of sort of individual sort of journey, as it were. So there'll be people who, go through a relatively unscathed, maybe 2 years of perimenopause, straight into menopause, postmenopause.
And then there'll be people that last for 6 years.
6, 7, and have, debilitating side effects. So nutrition-wise, it's one of those ones where, like, again, there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of individuality. The basics always still apply, whether you want to paint it or jazz it up as a sort of perimenopause, yeah, which doesn't make any sense. But essentially, you still just want to be, making sure you're eating enough protein, making sure you're eating enough micronutrients. For most people, a healthy balance of healthy fats and some good carbohydrates. Now, it's one of those ones where weight gain is one of the most common sort of complained about symptoms of perimenopause and menopause.
And an inability to move the weight as well. So yes. A lot of clients say to me, you don't know what it's like, it just won't move anymore.
Yeah.
Like I've done this before, I've put on weight and then I've lost the weight before, but this time I can't lose it at all.
Yeah, so there's so much complexity that goes into this topic. So what I would say is, for the most part, research pretty much shows that your metabolism, or your adult metabolism as it were, stays pretty set between the ages of 20 to 60. And then after 60, it sort of declines very slowly until like, I think 70, whether then it speeds up a little bit. So if you think of perimenopause, average, around 45, the average age for menopause being around 52, the metabolism, according to research, hasn't really changed, okay? If you look at the side effects or the symptoms of menopause, or perimenopause as it were, you're looking at like hot flushes, night sweats, sort of like change in mood symptoms. You could have like sort of joint pain, things like this. All of those are sort of like designed to make it a lot harder to exercise and eat well, right? If you sort of disrupted my sleep and you meant like I had a brain fog and more stressed and my joints hurt, I'm very unlikely to stick to my healthy diet that was keeping me a healthy weight. I'm very unlikely to get as many steps as I was. I'm more likely to miss my training session. So all of the sort of side effects of perimenopause, menopause sort of feed into making your life choices usually worse. And therefore, when you actually zoom out a little bit and look at it, you'd be like, well, actually, you're eating more. Like, you haven't realized it because you haven't like focused on it, but you're now snacking on a bit more. We know that actually, again, don't hate me for saying this, usually alcohol increases at that time. Probably like, you're dealing with more stress, you turn to a bit of alcohol. Steps go down, the NEAT exercise, as it were. And then, you're more likely to maybe miss more training sessions. So everything's designed to probably put you in a place to gain weight. Now, if you're not making more hedonic food choices and you are still keeping your step count up and you are still training, there's no reason you won't just maintain your normal weight. Now, there is the element of, because of the change in sort of hormones, that you have a higher propensity to store more abdominal obesity. And we know that type of obesity is like more inflammatory. It's more sort of, it works to sort of like, well, again, like if you put more weight on here and it's more inflammatory, and then you tend to eat worse as well and move less, like it's just going to keep getting worse, right? But
you're saying that if you focus on your stomach all the time in the mirror, and then you feel like you've got a belly, you're then going to continually feel like you're not winning, so therefore give up.
No, but that's not a bad caveat. No, it's sort of like, adiposity itself is inflammatory.
Right.
Higher levels of inflammation probably elevate levels of like things like cortisol in the body again. So you get this sort of like synergistic effect where your lifestyle is now predisposed to probably increasing calorie intake and reducing energy expenditure, but your body's more like sort of the perfect environment to store fat on your waist.
Right.
Now,
the perfect storm.
Yeah, the perfect storm. That's what I was going for. So it's one of those ones where you don't want to like be harsh, because you don't want to be like, no, your metabolism hasn't changed. But at the same point, like, you want to empathize with the sort of like, look, it is easier to store, and I understand why you might have got into that position.
I only found out the other day that yes, the menopause is only that day after 1 year. I had a client tell me that while she's on the Echo bike, and I'm standing there like
she's not working hard enough on the Echo bike.
Yeah. Yeah, true, very true. But I'm standing there going like, fuck, like I need to do some actual, like I need to level up. Or
it's not. That is like I think it's so. This is the thing that I always find the most perplexing, and why I sort of maybe further niche down more in it, is that women themselves don't know.
No.
Which is a bit mind-boggling. Like, again, like it's not taught at school, and it's not, but like the amount of times I hear women who are like even my ex used to like make statements where it was sort of like, she was on, what was it? She was on like birth control, but she was like, yeah, so my cycle's really regular. I'm like, you don't have a fucking cycle. You're on birth control. Like, what? Like, so it was just like kind of like, how are these like, so I remember when I started writing the book, I asked people like, what is the menopause? And some of the answers I got from women were just like, oh, it's just that time where you can't have babies anymore. I'm like, well, I guess in the post-menopause period, you can't. Like, you could technically still get pregnant in perimenopause. Yeah. I mean, it's very unlikely, but you could.
Yeah.
So it's just
what about the chances? But then also there's the stuff about the chance of having twins, because maybe, again, if I'm getting this wrong.
That's with IVF.
No, yeah. Or it's not even with the because you could also suddenly just drop 2 eggs. Like, I always think of like World War bombers then. Sorry. So my wife's like, please don't make that analogy.
Actually, I don't think that's the case.
That's possible? No? Because then why do they say that when you're over the age of 45, if you're conceiving, you're more likely to have twins?
Because it's through IVF usually.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it's just straight up.
I don't think it's dropping 2 bombs down. I think it's because it's assisted.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So that statistic is based on falsified by us scientific interview.
I've not heard that you increase your.
Yeah.
I know you increase your chances of twins through IVF.
Yes.
And most people, if they're getting pregnant after 45, it's probably IVF.
Right.
Like if it's natural, what the.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, I've had clients. I have a client now who's 53 and she's still in the perimenopausal phase.
Right.
So it's some strong genetics.
I think when you become a parent, that's one thing, but it is scary. Like it's so scary to like. And again, the problem with it is back onto that self-help thing is that we fix ourselves. So then a lot of people become coaches because they're like, well, I fixed myself, so I want to help people. And it's like, yeah, true. But I was already doing fitness before I got sick. I just got really sick and really dumb with life. And then I was like, well, hold on, maybe I can help.
Yeah.
But also, I just want to run a gym now. I've realised I don't want to work in an office. So whether I'm online or offline, or I'm face-to-face or in teaching classes, I fucking like wanting to own a gym one day.
Well, I think that's enjoying what you do is just, you can't really put a price on that. Like, obviously, hopefully it pays the bills, but
yeah,
I realise how fortunate I am to enjoy what I do. And as a self-employed, obviously the buck stops with me. So I don't get given clients. I have to try and get them, and I'm terrible at advertising. I now have a marketing lady who helps me, but she's like, you do realize the last 2 weeks you haven't once mentioned what you do for a living on your page. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, so I've got to get better at call to action. But it's not something that comes naturally to me because it's not.
Have you been told you're too much of an influencer?
I'm not a businessman. I'm a nutritionist. That's what I do.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, yeah, but you've also got to the people who seem to do best in this space, unfortunately, are not the people who know the most. They're usually the people who are the best at marketing themselves, right? They're the best at playing the game of Instagram and
or running the 6-week shred programs, or literally saying the information,
following a stupid trend on Instagram. So it's kind of like,
here's the perimenopause
I'm trying
diet
to get a little bit better at sort of at least reminding people I actually do this for a living, and if they want to work with me, great. Otherwise, it's kind of like, I'll be studying or helping the clients I have, but not trying to attract new business. So it's.
And then just briefly on that, some of your last videos I thought were hilarious because you were in Thailand and you were like, oh, by the way, I do actually do exercise. I don't just lay on the bed and read books.
I think there's...
Because there was obviously people were telling you, Chris, I don't think you've shown anyone that you actually do any exercise.
It's nice to remind people that I do. It's one of those ones where I also think Instagram as a whole, if you post what works, my page would be it would just be me doing a squat or a bench press or a lat pull. Again, the basics are so fundamental that actually just posting the exercise gets a little bit boring after a while because you're like, oh, there's me squatting again. It's the same thing you were doing last week and the week before and the fucking last 6 months. So it's kind of whether you're going through different mesocycles in your training plan. All right, my tempo might change, my rep range might change. I might be doing this type of squat rather than, but again, the fundamentals are there that actually, for someone viewing it, it's quite boring. So it's kind of I will try, this week I've tried to record myself doing some exercise just so people are aware. I don't miss training sessions. I train 6-7 days a week. Again, that sounds like a lot. There's lazier sessions in there, and it's the sort of work volume and sort of recovery is all managed within that, right?
Yeah.
But but in post you'd be like, hey, do you exercise? Just a reminder to people that I can still do fitness.
Yeah, because otherwise, or your page, which is good because it would just be the talking heads, the Goob guy. And it would just be, here's a video.
He's fucking strong.
Yeah. And again, also with Dr. Mike, Mike did loads and loads of videos straight to camera. And then everyone was like, oh, I'm just going to digest his content that way. Forgetting that the reason he got to that level was because he's a fucking badass with the simplest thing of like how you hold the easy bar.
Yeah,
you know?
I think I've never really ventured into the sort of exercise technique video side of things.
But it's something you do every day.
Yeah, but I feel like there's people who do that very well that I don't want to try and like, I think there's a big thing on Instagram is copying other people that like content that works.
Right. But when are you going to put on some hot pants and do squats backwards facing the camera?
I don't mind doing that because that's sort of like taking the piss out of people. But no, I think like, you know, there's an element of stay in your lane. I think there's people who do the exercise critiques and the sort of like form videos better than I ever would.
Yes.
So I don't do them because I feel like I'd rather send you to that page. Who does it better and specialises in that.
But then equally, it's an ecosystem where you've got to, and then it becomes so like unmanageable. It's like you've got to draw someone in with your talking head. You've got to show them you're a dietitian that specialises in this. But then actually, you just want to go to Thailand and train with awesome people. And like, I think one day you won the workout or something.
Oh yeah, there's always little comms out there and stuff.
Yeah. And then everyone's like, oh, is he just a bougie influencer?
Yeah, that's why I did the series on my Instagram when I'm out there of the fitness wanker abroad.
Yes, I love those. I thought they were
just
great.
To take the piss out of like, I'm definitely not an influencer.
And then I think I nearly got shadow banned for commenting cunt face on one of them. And then it said, do you really want to send this as a comment? I don't think this fits in with the community guidelines.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's weird because I got a ban on TikTok from one video, which I was like,
why?
What's wrong with that? I was like, that's also like the only stuff that on my TikTok is repurposed from my Instagram, right? So there's nothing new. So Instagram was fine with it.
Yeah.
So like, why TikTok being like, you can't say that, that's bullying? I'm like, it's really not.
Yeah.
Although it does always like, I like the way Instagram, like if I do a story and I write a swear word in the story, like usually like self-deprecating, not like rude. It's like, are you sure you want to send that? I'm like,
and then YouTube. Have you even tried YouTube? Have you got any YouTubes?
You know what? Like, one of my friends has done really well on that. He keeps telling me to do YouTube Shorts, but I just
Shorts. That's a bold. That's a because I
or like repurposing it at least, and then
you could.
I mean, to be fair, he said to do long format as well. I think. Again, you've got to sort of pick where you put your energy. Yeah. And there's only so much. I think like I've been trying to grow Instagram. The repurposing on TikTok only takes me 20 seconds. So like, I do that. If
I was your agent for a book, I would say, right, Chris, we need to get a minibus and we need to go up and down the country.
Yeah, to
every single menopause chat group.
Yeah, I'd do it. Fucking right.
And you have to go to, in America they call them Barnes and Noble, but here like Waterstones.
Yeah.
And you imagine though, if you'd been booked on like a 6-week
I'd do that happily.
paragraph, you have to go to a bookstore, read a paragraph.
This is the good thing about like my job is it's all online, so I can, you
can do it.
I can come here on a Thursday for an hour or two.
But let's do it. Let's get you up and down the country.
I mean, Barnes and Noble. Oh, well, that's American.
Waterstones.
Waterstones. Yeah.
Imagine that sitting in a corner.
If
with
you can
Chris.
get me published, I will happily kiss babies, shake hands, and whatever is asked of me.
But, I love it.
You know, the first one was self-published. I quite enjoyed that route as well because I could get things done to the book that I enjoyed. There was no pressure on it. It was sort of like...
No, I think we need to get you on BBC Radio 4. I think we've got to do it. I'm going to reach out to some of my clients and be like, you know what?
Much appreciated.
Don't help me, help Chris.
This is the thing. I also like, you can undercut me with the pricing. I haven't done it for money. Like, genuinely. The Penguin lady actually was very nice and she followed me on social media. So I sort of reached out to her via Instagram being like, happy coincidence, but again, it was kind of like I was like one of those ones where I was like, oh, you're like, you don't even have to pay me. Like, I haven't done this for profit. It's a passion project.
Because you can straight away publish on Amazon.
Oh yeah, I can publish it tomorrow.
Oh, and they print to order. It's quite impressive, isn't it?
This is my first book.
It's amazing, isn't it? Anyway, so before we go and do a whole nother podcast again, thank you so much for your time today
pleasure.
and coming down. And obviously, guys, check him out online. His videos are amazing. And your book is on Audible, your new book. If you know any publishers, by the way, that want to get spicy, that's it. All right, guys. So before we completely run out of all video and all cameras to talk to, great work today.
Pleasure, mate.
All right, good.